Today I'm going to tell the story about my first dog who, actually, it's crazy. He died 12 years ago when I was 14. I'm 26 now. He has still been part of more than half of my life because my family actually got him before I was born. So he was born January 1998, and I think they got him as a puppy. So maybe he was like a month old or 2 months old. This is before I was born. I was still in my mom's stomach, ready to pop out. Um, or I wasn't quite ready yet. So yeah, he was around. He was part of the family longer than I had been. And so the way that kind of went about is that my sister was really upset about about pretty much having a sibling, and she didn't like it, and like she was like, she was 6 years old, so of course she's gonna feel certain ways about that. That's like, maybe not rational like for an older person, but for a little 6 year old girl, makes complete sense. Yeah, she was not very keen on the idea of having a brother, and she felt like, I think, like pretty much like jealous, like that another kid, was coming into the family and was going to take up all the attention. As a way to counteract that, she's like, I want a dog. And I guess they wanted to appease her, so they got the dog, a little Shih Tzu. He was also a little shit. He was, oh man, he was a fucking asshole. Like, if I'm gonna be honest, like, not to speak ill of the dead, but he was not. It's complicated. I'm not gonna say that I didn't love him. I loved him so much because we grew up together. He was part of my life for 14 years, from birth until like the end of junior high school. So that's a huge amount of time. And we pretty much grew up together. We were raised together. And, we went through so much together that I can't say too much negative about him, even though he was very flawed and he had a lot of problems. He was just one of those little dogs that it's like those tiny dogs are always the meanest. You ever notice that? Like, you have these giant fucking huge dogs that could kill you like in 1 second if they wanted to, but then you have these little tiny ones that are always like the meanest. The chihuahuas, the fucking, the little poodles, like they're always the meanest fucking dogs. And my Shih Tzu was no exception. I think he was only like 8 pounds. I think that was the most he ever weighed. And yeah, he so his thing was that he would just bite people like all the time. He was a biter. He would just go up to people. He wouldn't just like go up to people like, so okay, I can't say that. He didn't just like say, "Oh, I just feel like biting this person." It was more like if he in his head felt threatened by you, what usually triggered him was like if your face went like really close up to his face like this. Like, if he went up to your face, that was fine. If he wanted to like go up to you and kiss you, lick you, he was very affectionate, which was also kind of weird. He was mean and affectionate at the same time. He also didn't really care for strangers at all. He stayed the hell away from them, and other dogs too. He wasn't very friendly with. Like my second dog that we got, I think he was like maybe George was probably 7 years old by the time we got Winston. He didn't get along with Winston. He didn't get along with my other dog. He didn't get along with any dogs that he met. He just didn't like outsiders, and he was definitely more aggressive with them. But even with us, even with his own family, he would bite a lot. But he would also kiss us a lot. Like, he was the most affectionate dog actually that I think I've ever had or that I've ever seen. He would just always go up to you and lick you. That's all he ever did. Like, he only just fucking licked you. He didn't want to play tug of war. He didn't want to play with a toy or do frisbee or anything like that. Like, he really just was a dog that licked my face. And those are really most of the memories I have of him, is him just licking me. Like, I felt a bond to him, a strong bond. I actually I referred to him as my brother when I was a little kid because I didn't have a brother, and he was like the closest thing I guess that I had to him. And he was the first friend also that I ever had, because before I was in school or before anything like that, like he was, like I said, he was part of the family before I was even born. And I've heard stories, I don't remember this obviously because I was literally an infant, but like he would always come into my crib when I was a baby. Even like my parents would do everything to like move the crib in a way that he couldn't get in and try to like block it. He would always get in every single day, and obviously they didn't want him in the crib because they were afraid that you don't know what's gonna happen. Like a dog and a baby unsupervised in the middle of the night. Like I don't know what would happen. So they didn't want it, but he just got in there every time, and he wanted to be with me. So We had that bond built in from when we were both babies, so I think that was a huge part of it too. Um, and he was also a different dog from what my parents have told me and my sister, because she was old enough to remember when he was a puppy. And from what they've all told me, he was never mean, never snappy, never bite people. He was just a playful dog. He would always play with toys, and he was just he was a lot nicer. People think my parents think that it may have been the testosterone because they didn't fix him, that it kind of fucked him up, or maybe that he was an incest dog and the incest fucked him up. I don't know. I honestly don't know. And they don't know for sure if he was an incest dog. I think that was just a joke. But it's possible because there's a lot of inbreeding, especially with those purebred dogs, right? So he probably was inbred to an extent, and he wasn't fixed, which I guess, some people would criticize that. Like, you should always fix all your dogs. But that little thing was not going to hump anything. I could just tell you that with certainty. And he never tried. I've never seen him humping anything in my life. Even though my female dog, that giant fucking fat bulldog, was humping everything in sight. So, I don't know. It's fucking weird. But I will always remember the day that he died. And it felt like a part of me also died. A huge part of my childhood died. It was definitely top 10 saddest days of my life. I remember coming home from school. I mean, I knew he was going to die. So what happened, he just slowly got sicker and sicker and sicker over the last year of his life, shitting and pissing uncontrollably, and then just getting sick and not being able to really move around as much, just laying on the floor, losing a lot of weight, and for an 8-pound dog, that's not good. So it was to the point where we all were in agreement that they had to put him down. I mean, he was old. He was 14, and he was obviously on his way out. He was just suffering at that point, so we all agreed. Even me, I agreed. And as horrible as it was and how sad I was, I remember he was buried in our backyard. And I was just I was crying in school, actually, the day of, because I knew that he was going to get put down that day. And I was just an uncontrollable wreck in school that day. I remember in the middle of band class just breaking down in tears. Because he is someone who did and always will, even 30, 40, 50 years from now, if I'm still alive, I'm still going to remember George and think about him and think of him overall in a very, very highly, because again, he was the first friend I ever had, the first dog I ever had. And he was even still died 12 years ago. It still blows my mind thinking about that. He's still been part of more than half of my life, 14 out of 26 years, so his impact on my life is profound. It obviously is. And even though he wasn't perfect, and he had his aggressive nature to him sometimes, and he would bite my friends when they would come over because they would fuck with him because they were little kids and they would do shit, and he would not take that. He fucking bit my friend's nose, and her parent actually went to the authorities and reported the dog. And you know how that goes, when a dog gets reported multiple times, they do get put down. So my parents were furious with her parents, and it kind of caused a little bit of a strain in the relationship there. It's fucked up, because he didn't. It's not. I could see if she was permanently scarred or something, but she got bit hard. But it was and he was locked up too. She fucking got in somehow, was able to unlock the door, get in there, and do that shit. So that was fucking frustrating, obviously, for the family. I was 5 years old, so I didn't quite understand all that whole thing, but yeah, trying to think, just off the top of my head, think of special memories specifically that I have of him. I remember the one time when he went missing while we were on a road trip, and he we went to stop at a deli or something 2 hours. It was a 4-hour drive, and we were 2 hours in, and he just disappeared. He was gone for an hour. We spent an hour looking for him in the middle of nowhere, and we thought that he was gone and he was never coming back. I think I may have been 7 or 8 years old at that point. And we were really scared. We didn't think we were ever going to see him again. And then he just randomly popped up. And he was he was back. And the couple of times where he just like got lost in the woods, he was really like a cat. Like he felt more like a cat than a dog, to be honest. Like he loved cat food. First of all, he loved cat food because my grandparents, whenever he'd be at my grandparents' house, they were huge cat people, so they always had cat food. He always loved the cat food more than the dog food, and he just acted more like a cat. He didn't meow, he barked, but still, like, I think he may have been a cat in a dog's body. Now that I look back and think about it, because he didn't really act like a dog at all. I mean, the only thing dog-like again was like him barking. Other than that, yeah, I mean, he'd climb on things and he would like do cat-like things. I mean, I guess the only thing is that he didn't need a litter box. He could just piss outside and that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, George, still love you, still think about you, even though you're a little shit. Zoo.